Hi, welcome to Consciously Healthy. I'm Laura.
And I'm Claire.
And today we are talking about being healthy at a desk.
And healthy at work in general, I think, but we're going to focus on desks.
And the reason that we're doing this podcast is because a lot of people sit at a desk for hours and hours and hours and don't move. And this can be quite damaging.
It can.
Your poor little body.
You know, we have been in clinic a long time and we hear a lot of reasons / excuses. Excuses for why people can't actually, act on the recommendations offered and therefore don't achieve their health goals.
Okay. Yes.
And a lot of the reasons, the one that we hear time and time again is, it's just too difficult with work. It's just too difficult. And I have a story. I have asked him if I can tell this story because it's one of my favourites. I just love it. And I have a really fantastic client who is a builder. He's a carpenter. And I remember when he first came to see me with IBS, and I really recommended that he avoided wheat. And there was all the kind of usual, it's very difficult at work, and I'm just sort of I'm grabbing things on the hoof and blah, 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 blah. And so after this sort of happened, for a couple of sessions, it was a case of, okay, do you want to get well? Because this is how I'm going to have to work with you. The wheat, I really recommend you give it a knock on the head. He was like, all right, okay, I'm gonna be organised, I'm going to do it. Okay, great. So he started off by just sort of, instead of taking a sandwich, he'd take oat cakes and hummus and, bits of ham and little bits of carrot sticks. And then he got into protein shakes. And then he started coming along for his sessions and then saying things like, what about E-numbers? And I was like, well, E-numbers are, it depends what you want. Just for your IBS, just let's avoid the wheat. But, E-numbers, we could go into E-numbers. Yeah, I think I'm going to E-numbers. Yeah, I think I'm going to avoid E-numbers now. Okay, great. Then the next session, what about milk? Okay, right, okay. And it just got more and more and more until he became so conscious of his health and what he was putting in his body that he started actually, when all the other men were laughing at him because he no longer had the massive pasty, he was actually then educating them around why the food he was eating was a better choice for him. And I absolutely love that because for me it's a real example of someone who absolutely took the control of their health back and empowered themselves and educated themselves and made a change. And we do hear a lot of people saying, it's too difficult with work, I don't have time.
Yeah.
So, how do we recommend that people sitting at a desk or being, working within the confines of the working environment get healthy?
Oh my God, I've got my brain's gone. So the first thing is when people use the word I can't. That's the first thing that's flagged up for me, is that's quite a disempowered phrase. So turn I can't into I won't. And like with food at work, with moving actually is one of the biggest things that I would say will help you in getting healthy at work, because we can get so engrossed in our computers and our laptops and we stay in the same position all day long without having a wee break, without having any fluids, without seeing any sun, and it is so negative for our bodies.
So depleting.
And so making sure that, we can set timers on our phone.
Yeah.
After an hour or 2 hours, making sure that you get up and you go for a walk and you go and get some air and go and get some...
I agree.
I was going to say sunlight. Even though it might be a grey day, it's still really important for the pineal gland, which is part of your endocrine system, which helps you deal with stress and helps you sleep and helps you be happy. If you can get outside and you get some nice fresh air, you will feel so much better. And it's... when I hear the things that people say in terms of I'm too busy, I can't, it's such a disempowering.
That's so disempowering. We've actually done a talk lot at big corporations, big offices, on how to be healthy in the workplace. And one of the things we actually recommend is when you're taking your break or you're walking to the kettle or you're going to the loo or whatever it is, walking to the water machine, that you actually do something called cross crawl, which is essentially like marching So you're walking, but you're making sure that you're using the opposite arm and leg, which is how we're supposed to walk naturally. But some people, particularly if you've been sort of focusing a lot, our brain just stops integrating. And so an easy thing to do is actually take, as you're walking, touch with, for example, your right hand, your left knee, and then left hand onto right knee. So you're actually crossing, making these crossed movements. And we actually had a whole office of lawyers like holding each other to the commitment that they were going to do that whenever they were at the kettle, didn't we? It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Your impression of dancing towards the kettle in front of a bunch of lawyers was one of the highlights of that talk for me.
So in that, when you're walking to the kettle, one of the things we would recommend is don't have too much caffeine. And so we're going to talk about slumps in a moment, but you know, I often say to people, if you are a caffeine addict, what is the cup of tea or coffee a day that the day just wouldn't be worth living without? And choose that one. And then make sure that for the rest of the day you're drinking plenty of water or herbal teas. That's the way to go.
Well, you know, so many offices have heating or air conditioning, which absolutely dries the skin out. So if you can drink lots of fresh water, I really recommend getting a big bottle or a big jug and filling it up at the beginning of the day and having it on your desk so that you can
just keep going,
keep drinking.
So when it comes to so when you're going to go outside and get fresh air, do you cross crawl? Make sure you're drinking enough water.
I tell you what, it really helps if you are at work, you're trying to get some clarity around something, or maybe you're brainstorming at your desk or whatever. You're not allowed to say brainstorming anymore, are you?
Cloud bursting.
When you're coming up with ideas at your desk and you're really struggling with something, if you go for a walk, get some fresh air, have a glass of water and do some marching, you will get clarity. Absolutely, I promise you, try it out, you'll get clarity come through and it will make you feel so much better.
So the other thing that we would definitely recommend is that you prep food in advance. So the amount of people who say to me, I was doing really well and then I forgot to take something to work and I had no choice but to pop to the shop over the road, or the sandwich cart came round, and I kind of go, yeah, you do have a choice. You know, we don't live in a bubble, Laura and I. Much. We don't live in a bubble. We do actually have to live in the real world, and there are times where we, are out and it looks like our only option would be the coffee shop with the wheaty paninis. It is never, ever going to be the option we go for. Ever. It just never. IBS within 20 minutes is never going to be the option. And so, really educate yourselves. I would much rather there are a million things I would rather do instead. In fact, we talked about this in another podcast around how to shop in a convenience store if you're in a rush and want to eat healthily. So if you can't prep food, then gen up on that particular podcast. But prep food in advance. We make a lot of soups. We make a lot of stews.
Ooh, get yourself a good flask. You can get like stew flasks, which are kind of big dumpy things. And what I like to do at the weekend is to think about what's coming up in the week, and if I need to make a big soup batch, stick it in the freezer into different portions, and then out it comes each morning, and I heat it up, put it in my flask, and I'm good to go.
And
I have soup for breakfast as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting breakfast choice.
I actually do think that we should do a podcast about breakfast, because it is one of the things that I have struggled to find a breakfast that's normal.
Normal. Yeah, because
wheat or sugar based actually is a kind of that's considered the normal breakfast.
That's true. I was going to say, because soup's really normal, and I think you stumbled on gold there. Yeah. Anyway, so batch cooking, that's a great option. Find a little place locally that can do you things like omelettes and salads, and there's just limitless possibility actually when you start. Instead of saying to yourself, I can't do it, because then your brain will believe you. How's about trying, how can I eat healthily at work? So we've done the moving, we've done the drinking, plenty of water, and limiting your caffeine. Another thing I want to talk about is taking antioxidants. So antioxidants are your vitamins A, C, and E. So things like any of the deep, dark coloured fruits, they've got beta carotene in them, which is a precursor to vitamin A. We work with an antioxidant drink called Zambrosa, which is lovely. So strong antioxidant drinks that you can get from health food shops, or send us an inquiry, because working around all of that air conditioning, lighting systems, electrical cables can really mess up your your body's free radical, the amount of free radicals in your body. So we do recommend an antioxidant. Get your natural light and your fresh air.
Yeah.
And what else?
I would also say one of the hardest things about working in an office is people bringing in cakes and biscuits.
Yeah.
It is really difficult. And if you are someone who struggles with blood sugars and cravings, then I can recommend getting yourself some licorice root, the herb licorice root.
Not eating the cake and biscuits?
No, we tend to use we use herbal supplements, but you can get stuff from health food stores if you want. So to be able to give, or licorice tea is a really good way of being able to curb sugar cravings.
Yeah, it is. And just try and figure out how you can make it work for you, because there's just no reason why we can't.
Yep, absolutely.
So, for more information from us, I know what I promised to talk to you about was slumps. The reason that people get 3 o'clock in the afternoon slumps or 11 o'clock slumps is because either you've had too much caffeine or too much sugar or too many carbs, and so blood sugars have gone up and then they go back down again. So, batch cook, make sure that your food is really balanced, don't have too much caffeine, no slumps.
Yep. It's balancing the carbohydrates at lunchtime. So if you can make sure that you're having a decent protein at lunchtime, it will stop the 3 o'clock slumps.
And if it's not because of the food you're eating, then maybe it's because you don't like your job, and maybe it's time to look at that.
And that's a whole nother podcast.
And on that bombshell,
if you want to tune in for more of our fabulous podcasts, then subscribe here. We podcast on a very regular basis. And if you are interested in exploring emotional issues on a greater depth, then we do this fabulous free webinar. So check out reclaimyourlifewithease.com and also our Facebook if you want to say hello.
Hello.
Which is balancedwellness.uk. So come and check us out.
Absolutely.
And yes, we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.